Hey guys, Andy with Dogtag Decals here. Today we're going to be talking about how to install and apply vinyl decals to a storefront window and keep them straight. In the meantime, feel free to check us out on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date with what we've been doing lately. So the first thing we're going to want to do is actually figure out what our window width is. I already know it's going to be 30 inches on this specific piece of glass. I apologize, I don't have an actual door, but you know what? Too bad. So we know it's 30 inches wide. Next to what we're going to need to know is how wide our actual decal is. Now, I'm just taping it up here temporarily so you guys can get an idea of what exactly I'm talking about. But what you're going to want to do is find the widest part of your decal. In this case, it's from the beginning of the M on Monday to the end of the D enclosed. And the way I cut this was exactly 12 inches. Again, just to try and keep the numbers nice and even for us. Now, this formula is going to be the same no matter what you're doing. You're going to take the actual width of your window, which is 30 inches, and you're going to subtract the width of your vinyl, which would be 12 inches in our case. It's going to give us 18 inches worth of free area on both sides. So we're going to take that 18 inches, divide it by 2, and that's obviously going to give us 9 inches. Now that 9 inches is what we're going to use for our border on either side of the vinyl itself. Now another big thing that we're going to be talking about, and again this applies to just about any decal that you're ever going to apply, is you have to keep your substrate clean. Any sort of debris or hairs or anything like that you're going to get underneath your decal is going to give you air bubbles, it's going to give you creases, it's going to do nothing but cause problems. So you're going to see me actually clean this glass multiple times through this process. Now all I'm using is a simple water solution. I've got about 32 ounces of water with no more than 1 or 2 drops of Dawn dish soap is all that I've got in there. Some guys like to use a little bit of alcohol in their solution. However, when you go to actually get into wet dropping, which is a completely separate process that we'll talk about in a different video, that alcohol can actually damage the adhesive under the vinyl and cause problems later on. Specifically, it'll cause the vinyl to peel off a lot easier. Now what you just saw me do there was use a squeegee in order to try and minimize the amount of extra debris, specifically lint, off the towels. Once I got done with that, I just took a lint-free towel and got the final little bit of water off of the surface. Now that I've got my decal up there, all I'm going to do is take my tape measure, and starting on either side of the widest point on my decal, which again is at the end of the D on the right side, I'm just going to move my vinyl over until I'm exactly 9 inches from the edge of the glass. Once that's set, I can then take my tape and again temporarily put it up there because everything is going to shift around just a little bit until I have it all nice and centered. Go over to the left side, do the same thing. Again, 9 inches, tape it up there temporarily. Now you'll see I actually pulled it off of there because my tape was creasing. You want to make sure that your tape is as straight as possible in order to give you good hinge, which you'll see in a little bit here. Now all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my squeegee and lay the tape down a little bit better. Make sure that my transfer tape is picking up the decal a little bit better. Make sure I got all my air bubbles out, and then double check all my dimensions. Now not everybody's going to have a squeegee, and that's fine. You can use something like your debit card, your driver's license, whatever you've got that's going to give you a flat, stiff surface. Now the other thing that I want to double check is make sure that everything is level. Now assuming that your decal was cut correctly, which of course Dogtag Decals only produces the finest decals, we're going to make sure that our actual application here is level. Now all I did is I took an imaginary line across the top of all those letters there in the Dogtag Decals, and I just measured down from the top of the window, and I know that's 14.75 inches on both sides, just to verify. If it's not the exact same, that means that your decal is either cut incorrectly or your design is not level, or more than likely your vinyl is not centered and not level as you apply it. Now, whatever is laid out right there with your tape right now is, in theory, if everything else goes according to plan, is exactly what's going to show up on the window after you take the transfer tape and the backer tape off. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit more masking tape. I've got a couple strips here about 6 inches long or so, and I'm just going to lay that all across the top. And what that's doing is that's giving me a hinge all the way across the top of that vinyl there. Again, take my squeegee. I'm going to lay that tape down as tight as I possibly can in order to give me a good crease point across the top of that decal. Try and work out all the little air bubbles, make sure it's solid. The last thing I want is, after I peel off the backer, to actually have that hinge break on me or fall apart. So once all that's taken care of, I can start peeling off the backing paper there. And as you can see, I didn't quite squeegee everything down as hard as I can. You're going to want to make sure that you take your debit card or license or whatever you have and get out as many air bubbles as you can. Make sure that your transfer tape is grabbing hold of the vinyl as well as possible. What that's going to do then is make sure that you don't have any pieces that stick to the backing paper. All I'm going to do here is double check, slowly go through and peel up the vinyl a little bit at a time, scanning back and forth, make sure that I don't have any little pieces that are sticking down. You can kind of see up there the A on Monday, one of the little legs on it doesn't really want to come up too well. You don't want to yank up because you run the risk of actually ripping that piece of vinyl that's still there. All you want to do is just press it down a little bit harder, make sure that it stays on the transfer tape, and everything should peel up just like that. Now once you're done with the backing paper, just go ahead and drop it. It's not gonna do any good for you right now. What you want to do then is make sure you have your squeegee close by, but then don't let that piece of transfer tape touch the glass until you actually touch it with the squeegee to the glass. What you're doing at that point is you're working out all the air bubbles and actually pushing them down and away. Start in the middle. I tend to work from the hinge down, and then from that center line that you start with, just kind of work all the air bubbles out to the side. If you work from the outside in, you have a much bigger chance of working air bubbles into the design, and that can cause you problems, especially on some of the more intricate decals that a lot of people try to apply. Now all I'm doing is I'm just making sure that there's nothing else trying to keep the transfer tape stuck down to the glass, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break all my hinges because there's no reason to have them there anymore. Just kind of stick those hinges back to the transfer tape, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that piece of transfer tape as far away from the decal as possible. Now my thumbs are actually writing against the glass in order to give me the sharpest possible I guess pull away angle, if you want to call it that, with that transfer tape. And what that's doing is that's minimizing the risk of a piece of vinyl actually coming back up with the transfer tape. When you dry drop like this, you don't really have too much of a chance, but there is that possibility. So try to keep your angle as tight as possible. Now all I'm doing is double checking all my measurements, verifying that nothing moved with the hinge, and if everything went according to plan, which it did, it laid down exactly like we had it laid out with the dimensions originally. And I'm just going to mark out so that you guys can see exactly what I had there. Again, we had 9 inches on each side, so we know that we're centered on the piece of glass. And then again, from the top of the glass to the top of the letters in dog tag decals, we have 14.75 inches. So we know we're level, We know we're centered. And that's it. There really isn't a whole lot else to it. Try not to be too abrasive on it, for at least a day or so. Make sure that all that adhesive has the ability to really stick to the glass. We always go back through just to make sure that we didn't have any extra adhesive from the transfer tape on the glass. We'll go through and just clean it. Again, we're using that real mild solution to just soapy water. Wipe it all down, and you're good to go. That's all there is to it. So hopefully this helps you guys out. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave us a comment. Please subscribe. Please feel free to share this with whoever you think might help. And good luck. Thanks.